my Instagram will go live. It doesn't. I'm not sure why, but that's okay. So we are live. Happy Sunday afternoon. This is the first time I've ever done a Sunday afternoon show. This is kind of cool. I like this. Yeah.
Me too, actually.
So let me just do this quick because this is like so impromptu with us. So I'm Warren from Unlock the Day, and I am here with Crystal Black from Crystal T's YouTube channel.
Yes. It's
Crystal and I have known Crystal Dash T. Sorry about that. I guess we've known each other for what, like a couple of years now, right?
I was gonna say at least, yeah, over a year. I remember the first time I talked to you on one of these shows, and I was like, it was just so great. It was a great conversation.
It was fun, right? It was that. Though back then, it was like this is kind of impromptu. That was like totally just let's just have a conversation with Crystal and see what it went. It was like, this is fun. I can do this all the time.
Oh, that's right. And Paxton, he played that game with us, didn't we? Play that game, and I was like, it was almost like trivia. Or
exactly,
something.
It was trivia. Yes, it was a trivia game. It was like,
oh my gosh.
Oh, okay, I'm terrible at trivia, so that was not good for me at all.
It depends on the category, right?
Yeah.
It's very category specific.
Yeah, we watch, literally, it's like my older son makes fun of us because we have this routine. We have dinner, we watch Jeopardy, and then we watch Wheel of Fortune, and then we do like whatever we need to do at night, but it's like that hour is like, and my older son's like, how old are you people that you're watching Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune every night and having a cup of tea? And I'm like, it's just like, it's
That's
just our
so
day.
funny.
It's just our thing. So, but yeah, and I'm still terrible at Jeopardy, so it's fine.
Yeah, like my family's watched Jeopardy too. I remember. That's too funny. So yeah, I was gonna say this is the first time we're getting together on Sunday, and I know we were talking this past week just about like the Sunday before you start the work week. And I actually looked it up. I didn't realize it had a name for it, like the anxiety that happens before people start work, and just thinking about what do I have to do this week, what deadlines, like, and just that like dread feeling almost of like, even though you don't even know what it is, like this impending like and it's called the Sunday Scaries. And I didn't realize that. I'm like, oh, it was like hashtag Sunday Scaries and hashtag like Sunday Anxiety. So now it's like they have all these, hashtags and conversations about it. And I'm like, that makes so much sense. Now years out of my life makes sense. Whether I was in school or, working. I don't know. How about you? Did you identified with that or?
So I think, and I don't know if this is necessarily the case. I'm wondering if those Sunday scaries are more because you're not really doing what you really want to do, and you're doing what you have to do, right? So you have to go to work tomorrow. You have to have these responsibilities at work. You're not really doing exactly what it is like your passion is, but you're doing what you need to do. And I think when you're doing that, when you're living that way, that it's like, oh my God, it's another week. And so, yeah, I get it. And as much as I love what I do professionally, I still have that a little bit of anxiety. It's like, oh my God, what do I have to deal with this week? But I absolutely get that.
Yeah, like that's so true. That's a great point. And I thought about that a lot later. It's like, of course, that's a thing when you're not, like it's not lighting you up. It's not something you're passionate about, or, someone's putting pressure. There's some kind of pressure coming from somewhere, obviously. And then we end up putting extra pressure on ourselves because we care. That's the thing. Oh, look, Susie said hi.
Hey, Susie.
Susie with the Z. What's up? Yeah, so it's true. Well, what got you to the point, I'm curious too, where it's like you kind of started balancing out your life more like, I want to do this. I'm going to make more time to do this and become more balanced instead of doing this work that I have to do to make money or XYZ.
I think for me, it was just, so the job that I'm in now at Save the Children, I've been here 5 years, and it's probably in my whole career the best job I've had because there's so much value behind it, and what we do is so important. So there's that mission. But before I was at Save, I worked for this really horrible company. I won't name them, but they were absolutely horrible. It was like 90-hour work weeks. It was like constant stress. I started on Friday night dreading Monday. I mean,
Of course.
literally, I spent my whole weekend going, "Oh my God, I can't believe I have to." And I just got to the point where I said, "No, I can't do this anymore." And then the Save the Children thing came in, but and I
Wow.
guess we can talk about all this. So I'm now 6 years divorced, and this past 6 years has just been about who am I, right? Because at 58 years old, you go, I'm done. 31 years of marriage. What are you
Yeah.
doing? Like people literally said to me, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I can't do it anymore. It's just where I am." And so they said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm going to live my life. I'm going to figure out what I want to do that makes me
Amen.
happy, and that's what I'm going to do." And it's funny how things happen. The whole COVID thing happened, and I started getting into social media, and I didn't even know what it really was. I mean, I had Facebook, but I didn't know like Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and all that. And as I started delving into it, Crystal, because there wasn't a whole lot else to do, it was like there's this whole other world out there.
Oh yeah.
There's so much more that we can be doing. And I started reaching out to people, and people started reaching out to me about my story because I would talk about my story a lot. And then they would come to me and say, "Can you help me?" And I'm like, "I'm not a professional, but I can share what I did and what I'm doing." And I think that just kind of snowballed. And it just,
Yeah.
one morning I woke up and went, "This is exactly what I want to do." Now I still have to do my job because I need my job, but I don't get overwhelmed on Sundays anymore because there's a whole bit. Work is just 9 to 5, and then there's a whole world after that. And I kind of look more forward to the world after than I do the
Yeah.
9 to 5. But when you have something else, it really makes a huge difference. And I will
Yeah.
tell you that every morning I go to the gym, and 5:30, we can talk about routines, but that's like a huge part of my routine. 5:30, I get up, I journal, I do what I got to do. 6 o'clock, I'm out the door. 7:30, I'm wrapping. It's this crazy thing that a couple of years ago I would have never expected I would be doing, but it was a mind shift. It
Oh
was
yeah.
really a mind shift change for me. It was a mindset to say, you got to be happy. Like stop not
Mhm.
being happy and figure out how you want to be happy. And I said, physically, I'm not where I want to be, and emotionally, I'm not where I want to be. So what do I need to do? And I just
Exactly.
kept going out there and trying it. And it's amazing when your mind's in a better place, how much you can really accomplish.
I know. And it's so true. It's like you realized, oh, the more time I spend on me and like, figuring out what's going to keep me balanced and aligned and also more joyful, content,
Yep.
peaceful, you can go down the line. It's like you just feel the value, right? It's like the self-love, the self-value that you're doing that. And someone might be like, oh, that's so early to go to the gym. But if it works for you, it's like, this is my me time, you know, like you said, you don't want to talk to anybody when you're at the gym and you put your music on or you're
Yeah.
doing whatever. And it's all about you, and it's no distractions, right? If you
Right.
limit the distractions or just focus, and it's amazing. Like you said, you started these goals, like whether it's like, I'm going to get better with balancing my emotions physically, I'm going to work on that instead of just staying in our head, right? And just feeling bad, like, oh, I need to lose weight. Oh, I feel bad with this anxiety. And people don't realize, wow, you help anxiety in your body, getting it out with exercise, movement, getting outside, just any of these things. It's so simple. But when we stay trapped in our mind and we don't balance it out with what the body needs too, it's
Yep.
like, it's such a mental prison, right?
And I think for me that, we've talked about this. The gym isn't just physical, right? The gym, like you just said, put the earphones in, put the music on, and just focus on me. Like, where am I? What do I need to work on? What do I need to fix? What's still broken? Because there's things that are still broken, and how do I get past that? And how do I fix all that? And yeah, there are people that I know at the gym and they want to talk, and I'm like, text me, call me, not now.
It's
Sorry,
because you're a
love you to death.
celebrity, Warren. You go in and they're like flocking over. You're like, dude, I got to get my workout on.
Yeah,
So
but I'm like, just, you know what? I can't. This is my mental time. And
I
so,
love it.
but, and it comes down to like personal space and boundaries, right? You have to have boundaries and you have to have your personal space, and people need to or should respect that you have this personal space, and it's not to be invaded, right? Just this is my time, and Sandra knows it and Kyle knows it. And when I come downstairs, it's like my time. Just whatever you need, I'm there, but I need my
That's good.
get away and do what I got to do kind of thing.
That's good. I was just about to ask, I'm guessing after your divorce or when you were going through that, it's probably when you started thinking more about that with boundaries again and trying to figure out
Absolutely. Yeah.
what do you need to do for you to be healthy, and how is that going to look now in your relationships moving forward? So how did you go about that? Did you read anything that was helpful or start journaling?
I spent like a year just reflecting on what went wrong. Like, why did this not work? And it's really interesting when you allow yourself to be vulnerable and open and say, man, if I did this different, like communication, right? It all came down to communication. Like, I never wanted to rock the boat. I never wanted to have arguments and disagreements. And so I would just shut up and just suck it up. You know what? You don't want to do that. No. What I should have said is, if I'm doing X, Y, and Z, you need to do A, B, and C. But instead, I just did A, B, C. I did it all because I didn't want to have the conflict. And so what I learned was, if I was more communicative, would it fix the problem that we had ultimately? No. But at least she would have known where I was coming from. And I never gave her that opportunity. So I think a lot of where I've been over the past 6 years is just kind of self-reflection. Like, what do I do well? What don't I do well? And then what do I need to fix? And what do I need to work on? And just being patient with myself to say, listen, you were screwed up for 58 years and don't expect to change it in 2 months, because it's not going to happen. It's a work in progress. And I think people we live in this world of immediate gratification, right? Everything around us is just do whatever and it's gonna change. You need to, for me, it was just coming up with a plan of what do I need to do and how long am I going to give myself to get to that step? Because kind of like a project manager mind, it's like lay out the steps. Every time I've tried to do something, I kind of back away and say, no, you're going too fast. You're missing stuff. So just little incremental changes. It's like going to the gym, right? You start off at 50 pounds and you're not going to go from 50 pounds to 100 pounds in a week. It's going to take you time to get there. And so it's the same thing in how I do everything. It's just gradual improvement. Because if you try to change too fast, you're going to get frustrated and you're going to fail and you're going to stop. So be patient with yourself and just kind of understand that it's going to take some time to get to where you want to be.
It's so true. And as many times as I've heard that over the years, I've made so many great changes, I know, but it's been a little extreme sometimes because, I'm fast moving, or I always was. And it's like you said, if it's too much, sometimes it's hard to keep that ongoing. It was almost like a pendulum swinging. They would go this way.
Yep.
And I remember one of my friends even said, like, hey, Crystal, you need to try to balance it out because I've just noticed and I'm like, you're right. It is swinging from one extreme to the next. And it was almost like that dopamine high,
Yeah.
And I know we talk about the ADHD and all these things on the spectrum. And it's like you have that need for more because it's almost like it's getting taken wherever it's going. It's like you can't balance it out. And yeah, it's such a great point. And I think that's why you're doing what you're doing with your routine and your workout.
It's huge. No, I just want to take a second and say thank you to Susie. I appreciate your comments there. But yeah, I learned about being honest with myself and how important it was to be honest with myself, because I think for a long time, I just made excuses, right? If something didn't work, if I wasn't in the right, I would just make an excuse as to why. And I never took the responsibility. Like I always tried to do the best I could, but I would always give an excuse as to why I didn't do something. Like, why didn't I save enough money? Or why didn't I get the job that and there was always an excuse. And now it's like, now it all falls back to me. You didn't do it because you were lazy or you didn't want to take the chance. And I think for so long, I was like afraid to take a chance. Like I was afraid to fail. And one of the greatest lessons I learned is failure is like the best thing in the world, right? Because you can either fail or you can regret not doing something. You can fix failure. You can't fix, when you regret something, well, for me, it eats, and it's taken years to let go of a lot of regret, but I needed to, because I couldn't move forward until I kind of forgave myself for a lot of things. And now it's like, just take the chance, see what happens. What we're doing here today, Crystal, like we talked before we started, 3 years ago, I could never imagine myself doing this. But I took a chance, and it's working. And it's so, I think believing in yourself is really important. And when things don't go well for a long time, you start losing that faith in yourself and your ability to trust yourself. But when you get that back and you start trusting yourself because you make these little incremental changes, right? That's when you start seeing the successes. And that's when you start to go, yeah, you know what? I can do this. Yeah. Why not? Give it a shot. Let's see what happens. It's huge.
And that's the self-value that's like, it's you with yourself. It's not third-party validation, where and that's where we go down the wrong roads, because it's like, anytime we're looking for that, it means we're, something's not quite aligned within ourselves. Or like, why are we looking for that if we really love ourselves? We know who we are. We know what we have to offer. And I think that's, kind of what got us both putting ourselves out here like this, talking on these shows and doing whatnot online. Like, I would have never put myself out there like this either. I've done acting before over the years, and that was a whole other thing, because you're playing a character or you're focused on a scene. And to me, even with, the vulnerability and the scary stuff there, that I got over pretty quickly because I loved it. But it's different when you're just being yourself. Right. And you're talking about real parts of your life, and just, it's a different kind of vulnerability than, the storytelling that comes with acting or writing. If it's a book of fiction, it's like you've heard people weave in parts of their life, and you don't know, like, they won't tell you which parts are real and fiction. Right. They hide it in the fiction. It's a little sneaky, but, like, it's so true. It's really self-value and going, wow, I'm proud of myself. Nobody else had to tell me how great of a job I'm doing or like how far I've come, because I am doing that for myself. And
for myself,
there's no comparison, in my opinion. Once you've reached that point, you just keep going, and it's
just keep going,
because you don't have to look around to the sideline and go, who's cheering me on?
Who's cheering? Yeah, you're cheering.
Laser focused.
Yeah, you're cheering yourself on. You're your best cheerleader. You really are, because you know what you've gone through. You know what you've had to do to get to that point. Yeah. And we were talking earlier, and giving up alcohol for me, that was like my biggest crutch. And it never, I just want to be super honest, it was never a problem for me. But it was always that crutch, like that Friday night, being in a bad relationship and then having a really bad job on top of it. That Friday night was like, what am I going to do? I'm going to just have a drink. And then it was like, oh, it's Saturday night, I'm going to have another drink. And then it was Sunday night, oh my God, I got to get to. It never snowballed till it was like an everyday kind of thing. But it was like, because I didn't have faith in myself to be able to handle it, I looked for that crutch, right? And that was this. And now I just said, that's it. Once I started getting healthy and doing the gym and realizing that I don't need any of this anymore, when I gave that up and said, alcohol there is zero value. There's zero value to that. It's going away. And I'm not here to advocate that everybody should, do whatever works for you. But for me personally, it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And you and I were talking earlier in the week, where it was last weekend or the weekend before, Kyle's also stopped drinking because he's so into running and, all of his fitness. We had probably 20 beers in the refrigerator and like Trulies and all this stuff. And he and I sat, we were at the kitchen sink, and he was like handing me beers, and we were dumping it down the sink.
I love it.
We were both looking at each other like, this is the coolest thing. Like, this is exactly what we need. It's one thing to just throw the beer away, but it's another to like the act of pouring it down the drain and going,
Yeah.
I don't need this anymore. And then, man, it's just those simple things that, to be honest, I wish I knew 20 years ago, because things would, and I don't know what my life would have been like 20 years ago if I made all these changes. But it is a reflection point, and it's not necessarily a regret, because I love where I am right now and things are moving. But sometimes you do play that what if in your mind, right? Like, what if I had done?
Yeah, the what if game.
I keep telling myself it doesn't. There's no value in the what if game. You are here right now, and you're just looking forward. And the past is just
exactly.
Leave it alone.
I was gonna say the only value in the what if game is turn it a little bit, and I use it for just imagination purposes. What if there was no limits and you didn't have to worry about money?
Right.
And
Yes.
exactly how would you spend your
Yes.
time? And it's,
Right.
it'll show you what do you love to do and what would you actually, things like that. That's what I use the what if.
And that's perfect, right? Because that is where I've gotten to the point of, what if I try this? What if I do this? And where's it going to take me? And what if I start talking to these other people and they want to talk to me? They want to talk back to me. Like LinkedIn, like all of a sudden I just started doing stuff on LinkedIn, and now these people are coming to me going, hey, how did you do this? And we'd love to talk to. It's like, oh my God, it's just open doors, and it's just about taking that chance, right? And just going, this is what matters to me. And I'll be honest, Crystal, like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I sat Sandra and Kyle down and I said, listen, I really want to move forward with the social media stuff. I really want to start helping more people, but that's going to mean time. That's going to mean my time for me, that self-care kind of thing. It's going to mean spending less time with you, but this is really important to me. And I would really appreciate if you guys kind of understood where I was, and they went, absolutely.
Look at that communication skills right there. Healthy communication 101. Look how easy that was, though, because you have a healthy relationship and they're loving and supportive. Right. And that tells you really quick who's in your court, right? Who's not.
Right, exactly. Who's there for you and who's not, and who can you count on? And that was so important to me that they went, we get it. Go do what's important to you. And that's just, it's huge. And even the setup that I have downstairs, and I know it's like, it's not great, but it's working. But it's like, I love doing this stuff. This is so much fun. So yeah, take the chance. I guess that would be my message today, is if it's important, if it matters, take the chance, see what's working, see what's not working, fix it, and just keep going. Just to your point of the what if there weren't barriers, go. Yeah.
And it's funny, you were talking about like regret or rejection and all those, like taking a chance and that sort of thing. And I thought real quick about, it's funny, I guess when I was younger, it was a thing and I would internalize it like, oh, rejection or whatever it is, not meeting my goals, I would beat myself up and feel bad. But then once I started doing some acting training, and I've done some sales training as well over the years, it was like, I learned some of those principles real quick. And it was like, every rejection is you're one step closer to your sale. Or acting was like, hey guys, you're going to get rejected all the time. So if that bothers you, you better not do this acting industry thing, because it's a thing. You have to keep going. You have to audition. You have to practice, do some scene work, do this. And then it's like, when it's the right opportunity, the right role, or the right fit, if it's the right sale meant for you, whatever the situation is, the right gig for you, Warren, where it's like, maybe melding together the worlds of like what you love to do and making it a business and putting it together, it has to be the right opportunity and the right thing. Otherwise, it's like, it's not meant for us if it doesn't work out quite right. So that's where I'm like, I don't even worry about the regrets anymore because it just wasn't meant for me. It wasn't the right time. Even if we look at time wasted and marriage or relationship that didn't work out, it's, well, I'm going to take what went wrong there and learn from it. And that sounds like what we're both doing. So instead of stewing in the negativity, we take the negativity from what happened and turn it around and go, okay, how am I going to make this a positive now?
How am I going to make it better?
Yeah, and make you better instead of looking to someone else and going, oh, who can I, be with next and find a better, instead of, I want to find a better relationship. How do I pour into myself? It's like you make yourself better and then you start attracting the right person, right? Or the right opportunity.
Yeah.
It's like,
I think it's really important that for me, again, it was like, I was so internalized and I was so broken inside that I really couldn't give back the way I should have been giving back because I couldn't even take care of myself, let alone, so materialistically I would provide for my family, but I wasn't really engaged, right? I wasn't really there. The more I started focusing on me, and this is where I think self-care is really important. People don't always understand it, self-care and being selfish. The more you take care of yourself, the better you take care of yourself, you're in a better place to help other people.
Exactly.
And it's really where these people are coming to me going, help. And now I can say, I can't help you because I get it, right? Before I was so like jumbled. I couldn't even help you. Like you could reach out, but I can talk to you, but I'm not going to make any sense to you. Now I kind of have things kind of laid out where it is. And it really does come back to that routine and journaling. I think we had talked about journaling, and for me, how important it is, because when I was in that state where I was so internalized, I had a gazillion things going on in my head, and I didn't even know how to process it all because there was so much. As soon as I started writing it down, and you have that release because now you're looking at it, now you're reading it back and going, yeah, that's a problem. And the more I did that, the more I journaled and got that out, all of a sudden my mind started calming down and it started quieting down because there wasn't so much in there anymore. It was down on paper, and it was like this release. And so now it's just a part of my morning routine. Every morning, it's like, it could be 2 lines, right? Some mornings there's not a whole lot to talk about, but I still make sure I do it. And I always end it with gratitude, like 3 things I'm grateful for every morning. I think, again, not everyone appreciates the power of gratitude and how much it really can change your outlook.
Oh yeah.
That's what it is for me. It's perspective and outlook. Just opening the shade. Like, I tell people, first thing I do when I get up in the morning is I open the shade, and it's like, man, there's another day ahead of me. Good or bad, there's another day ahead of me versus the other side. So
like, I'm going to live it, whether it's good or bad, instead of staying scared in your room or right. Like
I'm going to go for it and see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. I've always heard it's better just to make a decision, even if it's the wrong one, than to sit there and be like indecisive and not sure what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, when I heard that, I'm like, that made me feel so much better. All the mistakes that I've made. I'm like, yeah, that's right. It's better for me to make mistakes and then just learn from them than to sit around and not live.
That paralysis can be overwhelming, right? That paralysis of not making a decision. Just make a decision. And like I said, that's where failure comes in, because you make that decision. It didn't work. Okay. You tried. Now, what do you need to do to shift it? What do you need to do to change it? How are you going to do that? You're going to just take that next step. But if you're so afraid of failure that you aren't willing to take that step, that's when you get into trouble. That's when things kind of break a little bit.
Well, and fear is like the main thing, because fear is what normally holds anybody back from doing anything, or for staying in relationships we shouldn't stay in, right? Or fear is always the number one thing. And I realized some years ago, even going through ups and downs and challenges still, it's like you make those changes gradually, like what you were saying, and just figure out. But we're either operating out of love or fear.
Yeah.
It's like one of the two if we're really going to boil it down. So you taking care of yourself, journaling, going to the gym, asking your family, telling them, hey, I need this me time. It's all motivated out of love. That's love for you.
Yeah.
Just like if you're doing something for someone else, like the fear version looks totally different, like we're saying. And that's what leads to the paralysis and just all the bad feelings. And like you said, the drinking, like as an example of just that coping. It's just a coping mechanism or a coping
Yeah.
skill. Even if you said like it wasn't a problem, it didn't become an addiction for you. And you know what, Warren, it's funny because I don't look at you as having an addictive personality. And I'm like, that's probably why, because the next person, someone like me, I have more of that extremism. So like, I've definitely had issues over the years with like shopping or this or that. I mean, I could go down the list. Like when I've done something, I've really done it, and then you change it and then you try to find that balance or you get help and, you know, therapy, whether it's talk therapy too, or reaching out for other types of healing modalities. But our own self-healing, like what you're talking about with the journaling it's our go-to. Like we can't depend on going to counseling all the time. And that's just another supplement, I feel like, just to support us. But if we're not supporting ourselves to stay aligned and balanced, it's like, we can't depend on somebody else to give us that.
Right.
You know,
it's really liberating, I think, when you start taking responsibility for yourself. Well, it is for me. And I always talk about my experience because I don't want to talk about other people's, but for me, taking responsibility was like, man, why didn't I do this before? Like, what in the world? Like, why was I so afraid? And it was just, I think it was, and we keep going back to it, was fear. It was like, I didn't want to disappoint people. The reality is the choices that I made ended up hurting people because they weren't good choices, and things that I did ended up costing us more than, you know, they should have. And there's just dumb mistakes that I thought I was doing the right thing, and then in reality I was doing the wrong thing. But you don't know at the time. At the time, you're just so into, oh my God, I got to figure it out, and you're so reactive that you're just in there, and you're not taking the time to really figure out what's best. And for me, I also kind of thought about, and I do this all the time now. So and I say it's pause, process, and act, right? So stop. Like when you're in the middle of something, I just stop and like, all right, hold on. I'm not going to be reactive. I want to be proactive. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to pause. I'm going to process what's going on and what's the problem. What do I need to fix? Come up with a plan and then act on it. It might not work the first time, might not work as I hoped it would, but at least it wasn't this reactive thing that gets me in trouble because I went, oh, I'm just going to do this. And I was like, man, if I just thought about it more, I would have gone a different direction and it probably would have worked out better. It takes time to figure that out. It takes time to understand that you want to do the right thing, but sometimes your mind sends you down a path that isn't really the right thing to do, but you're just in that moment. And I try to get myself out of the moment and just kind of take a second to think about it. And it really changed a lot for me when I learned to pause.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh, that reminds me of a quote I saw: learn to pause or nothing worthwhile will catch up to you, or something like that. And I'm like, oh, man, of course, I didn't want to hear that because I like to keep going and going. But it's true. And when you do, it's like you're giving yourself the time, like you said before, when we're not valuing ourselves. That's what keeps us reacting and feeling like I got to do more. I have to do this faster. I got to be better, right? People pleasing or feeling bad, or if somebody says something critical to us, or, you know, even the subtleties of nonverbal communication, someone's mannerisms, their expression, right? We can become so sensitive to every little thing in our environment if it's not healthy, and we react off of it until we get to that place where I'm like, no, I'm worth this. I'm worth more than this. I'm going to give myself the time to think and process through this instead of making a rash decision that's going to keep telling other people around me that I don't value myself ultimately, and that I'll keep doing whatever to survive in this.
Yeah.
It's more of a toxic. Yeah.
That was my last job, where I was so afraid of failing and letting my team down and letting the company down that I would just work, like nonstop, like killing myself. And then at the end of the day, it was like, man, nobody, and the other side of it is nobody appreciated it. Like if I go like 30 hours straight working on a problem, they would come back to me and they'd be like, well, why didn't it work the first time? Like, why did it take you so long? Like, what'd you do wrong? Like,
oh my gosh.
I just spent 30 hours fixing your problem. Really? And that's when I got to the point of saying, you know what? When there's no appreciation, when you're taken for granted that much, that's when you have to say, yeah, you know what? If that's how you view me, then you don't need me. You need somebody else. I'm way beyond that. I'm better than that. So that's what happened. I got to that point at work where I was just like, if that's really what you think about me, then you know what? I'm not your guy. I'm not your doormat. So I'll see you later.
Amen. That's right. Yeah. And it, depending on where we're at in life, it's like we may have had to have that happen multiple times or in different ways, right? Whether it's personal or work relationships, because if you're believing that lie, like you said, I'm not, maybe I didn't do this right. Or as long as we're believing that lie, it will keep you in that cycle in different ways, whether overt or more covertly. So it's like harder to catch on to. But like you said, once you figure it out, you're like, wait a second. There's no stopping you moving forward after that.
Yeah. And when you have that belief system, when you truly believe that you can accomplish something, you will accomplish it. It may not be an immediate result, but you're going to accomplish it because you believe in yourself and you're going to move yourself in that direction and not give up. I gave up all the time. I mean, I just did. I just would be like, yeah, I can't do this. And when I was had so little confidence in myself, I was just like, I would give up. And now it's like, hell no, I'm not giving up. You know what? I'm going to make this work. I'm going to figure this out. When people don't do what they're supposed to do for you and you need to step up and keep going, you just keep going.
Yeah.
For years, I would go, if somebody gave up on me, I would just be, see, that's who I am. People are giving up on me. And now it's like, screw you. I'm going. I'm going to prove you wrong.
There you go, right there. It becomes competitive with yourself instead of other people, which I love. I'm the same way. I love, it's like almost competing, with myself or. Yeah.
I'm going to prove you wrong and do better and show you how to be better. Show you what it really takes to succeed. And I'm seeing it in my kids, which is really kind of cool, right? I'm seeing how my older son has overcome so much at his job with just really people that understand what he's trying to accomplish. And now they're embracing what he wanted to do all along. And they're going, you should have done this before. And he's like, yeah, I'm kidding. But he never gave up on himself. He always believed that what he was doing was the right thing. And he was so committed to it. And now they're going, oh my God, keep going. You're doing, and he's moving up the ranks. And he never doubted himself, which is like a really cool thing. He never ever said, you know what, maybe you're right. And now he always said, I'm right. It's important that you guys kind of get on the bandwagon and go with me. And they never did. And now they're going 6 years later. I'm like, we should have been doing this before. He's like, yeah, no kidding. But that's a cool thing. And I think other people see that. Other people in the family see that. And they're like, he's pretty cool. He's doing good. So
it definitely spills on your kids.
It's that internal thing. It really is that internal thing. And it's just showing people that you're not giving up, right? That you're just going to keep fighting. You're just going to keep going and you're going to learn. And here we are just doing really cool stuff. So
It's true. It's like, and if you need to shed some people, places, things, dynamics, whatever vibes along the way,
Yep.
then we
Yep.
need to shed it. Just like, like you're pruning, you're gardening, you're shedding skin, whatever's being shed. It just has to happen, and just
It
so
has to
be it.
happen. Yeah.
If you really love and value yourself and believe in what you're doing, like you said, then it's fine if people want to, give up being on the bandwagon or whatever, because it's not as hurt. I mean, it could still hurt and stuff, or
Sure.
surprise us, disappoint us, but I don't feel like it's traumatizing like it was before, like the end of the world, right? Like before, if somebody was threatening to break up with us, or like a
Yeah.
boss at work was being a jerk face. That's what I usually say.
When you have that internal validation and you don't require that external validation anymore, that's a game changer right there. And for so long, I craved that external validation because I didn't have it internally, right? So where do you look for it? You look for it externally. And sometimes the wrong people are giving you that external validation, and they're taking you down the wrong path. And then you went, and at some point, the light kind of goes on and you go, but it takes a long time. And for me, it was like a lot of bad people along, but I just craved that external validation because I just didn't believe in myself. And now it's like, I don't need you. Today, it's like, if we aren't on the same page, and we don't have the same values, and we aren't trying to accomplish the same things, thank you. And that's okay.
It's not meant to be. And I feel like I totally embrace that more now, just learning over the past few years and going through so many challenges.
Yep.
It's like it's had to get more extreme in my life for me to really get it, I guess, since I've been more extreme personality. I guess life has had to do that to me. It's like I really get it. And I think when you care so much too, besides before not being like, internally validated or whatever, used to toxicity in our environment, in our relationships, it's just one of those things that I'm like, the mind body connection to and staying aligned. It's, this is a big part of it. Like you were saying, I think.
Yeah, the alignment's really important. It's huge.
And I was going to ask you, it's hard. Like, what got you more on these routines? Was it just coming, like learning over the years after you started journaling and taking more time for yourself, and just gradually being like, I have to create a routine so I can feel more balanced? And
I think the routine came out of responsibility. Right? Because when I wasn't responsible, when I didn't take responsibility for what I was doing, then I would always come up with an excuse why I didn't need to do it. When I started getting more intentional about what I needed to do, and I got more consistent in doing it, and then the number one thing for me, Crystal, is discipline, right? So going to the gym at 6:00 in the morning in February when it's degrees outside, the last thing I want to do is get out of bed and go on that cold. But I also know for me, the first time I don't do that, then tomorrow I'm going to make another excuse why I don't need to do that. And then Tuesday, and it's the snowball. So for me, it's like, all right, I need to stay consistent, and I need to stay disciplined, and I need to stay intentional. And this is why I'm doing it. And it's led me down this huge path. And so the routine for me is more about is ownership of what I'm doing. And so being consistent in doing it and being disciplined in it has really taught me. So it's crazy, 64 years old, and I'm finally starting to learn to be responsible for myself, which is, but it is what it is. And I don't look back and I don't think about it, but my routine is the key to it, right? As long as I stay intentional in my routine and I don't break my routine, and I don't try to justify not doing something, I'm in a much better place. Maybe that's an extreme, but it's right now what I need to do.
Yeah.
It hasn't let me down yet. It's kept me better. And for so long, I think one of the other things that I really battled was procrastination. I was like, you look up procrastination in the dictionary and it's like my picture, like literally, like
Stop.
I almost got fired from jobs because they would say, where's your project plan? I'm like, I'll get to it. Don't worry about it. I would always get the job done, but I would never have that plan that they wanted because I was such a procrastinator. I'd wait till the 11th hour and then I'd stress myself out so bad because I was like, oh my God, you had all this time, you waited to the very last minute. And now that's all that undue stress.
Oh yeah. So many of us.
Yeah.
Have had that issue.
I had to teach myself to not procrastinate. I had to force myself to say baby steps, but that's what it came down to, right? Because I was always thinking that there was a starting point and there was an ending point. There was really nothing in the middle.
Yeah.
And so here's your project. Here's when it's due. And I would go, okay, I got it. All right. Now it's those incremental things. Just write something down. And it's starting. For me, it was like, just start. And it's like journaling. Just start writing. And once you start and you get into that routine and you break things down, my procrastination is 85% less than it used to be. I'm still procrastinating. There's still things I absolutely procrastinate because I just don't want to do, but
sure,
it doesn't consume me anymore like it used to.
I was going to say, once I learned a little bit more about procrastination, because of course I just beat myself up when I have struggled with it more. And I continue to, like you said, it just depends on what it is, but it's all based in in the emotional challenge and issues, and like whether it's a trauma, something we're suppressing in there, like it can become a little complex. It's all emotionally based. And once we understand, like, it's not our fault, it's not a bad behavior, it's not something like if you try to make yourself, I gotta do, then it almost for a lot of people has the adverse effect. But once you understand, like, this is happening because you've had so much emotional trauma and like upheaval, of course you're because it's like almost like the perfectionism that comes, like if you have a pending deadline, you probably care so much, you want to do a great job. And, if you start overthinking about it or you just stop, procrastinate, because it's like the anxiety and you want to, it's like self-sabotage. We do it. It's a subconscious thing.
Self-sabotage, 1,000%. Without a doubt, self-sabotage.
But like you said, if we just start, even if we don't get to where we need to be, it's better than procrastinating and going down that road, because at least whether it's just brainstorming ideas, I know I've learned that too. It's like just looking up stuff, just, I've gotten so much better about that too, because I was the same way. I was like balls to the wall. Like I gotta do this all right now because I wanted it that way. I think because of the dopamine rush and the extremism, but it's like, be kinder to yourself. Just think of these ideas now, do this research now. And it's like, it's all valuable, even if you haven't finished your project or finished editing, whatever you're doing, or whatever it is we're working on.
Taking stock in yourself, I think, is for me really important. Just understanding who I am, right? And I think part of it was just appreciating who I am. I am who I am, right? I mean, that's it. And you want to be different. You want to, you have friends that have 10 times as much money than you, and you want to be that person. You beat yourself up because you don't. Stop. Appreciate who you are. Live within who you are. And it doesn't mean you can't get better. You will, but you have to start appreciating. You have to start self-validating, being appreciative of who you are, what you do, and the good things that you bring to the world. And then that external stuff doesn't matter as much. I mean, it's still, there's always like that level of jealousy that, you don't have the same kind of car, but it's all materialistic stuff that at the end of the day doesn't really matter, but in your head it does. And that can mess you up.
It can, but how I was just telling my son the other day, we have such amazing conversations now that he's just so amazing, mature for his age. He's 13. It's like, yeah, I forgot what I was going to say, Warren. I'm having an ADHD moment.
Big moment.
What were we just talking about?
Just materialistic stuff.
Thank you. Okay. Does that ever happen to you?
Oh, well, but yes.
I'm like, I'm not even going to try to cover it up. I'm going to keep it real. But yeah, I told him the material, like, it's so weird. The materialistic stuff, I was like, it can be taken away. We can lose it at any point. You have a nice house, a nice car. Oh, you got money piled up over here. You got, you think you have the nicest clothes. You care about all that stuff. Well, guess what? I think life has a funny way of evening itself out eventually, or teaching us a lesson eventually. It may be the long road. You may not find out until later. But to me, I'm like, if that's what is making up a person and they're not building themselves on the inside, we call the inner man, right? The inner man.
Yep.
Which we're keeping aligned is what we're talking about, and balance, the inner man. It's like all that stuff, it could be taken away. You may not have it. And then what do you have left? Who are you?
Left. Right. Exactly.
So, like you said, you know who you are. And I'm sure you got reconnected with yourself really well over the last years after the divorce. And it's true. It's almost like a homecoming to yourself again.
Yep.
That's really awesome.
And I think it's just being honest. For me, it's just being honest with myself and appreciating who I am. Like, do I have flaws? Yeah, I can write pages of flaws, but then there's the good stuff, right? And so you have to accept the flaws and appreciate the good. And I think as long as you can do that, then you're in a much better place.
Yeah. I always say our strengths and our weaknesses is almost like a two-sided coin. I feel like sometimes our very strength can be a weakness. And I've always said that because I've always said I'm super determined and tenacious when I want to do something, or when it's, a certain thing, I've got my eye just lasered on it, whatever it is. But I can also be really determined over the years about doing something really crazy and probably harming and that kind of thing. Like you said, you talk about coping mechanisms and all that. So it could go either way. So it's great when it's down the avenue of self-love and keeping balanced more so than self-sabotage. Totally different.
Yep.
But
so before we wrap up,
look at us.
No, right? Give me one piece of advice.
Oh man, just a random piece of advice?
Yeah, just one random piece of advice.
Be yourself. Learn how to be yourself, because you have to learn who you are and, get to know yourself again. If you're coming out of a situation, an experience, a relationship, whatever it is, it's just a season of your life where if you're honest with yourself, you've been lying to yourself, right? Either making excuses and self-denial, blaming someone else, whatever the issue is, and just get to know yourself again, even if it's the first time you're ever doing that, because this is the only life you get. And, there's no blaming anyone at the end of it for not making your life better, because it's yours.
It's yours. Yeah.
And we're all going to be held accountable, in my opinion, one day, no matter what you believe, regardless of race, religion. Let me go down the list. Whatever values you were brought up with, it really doesn't matter. It's like you said, it's your opportunity to just live and learn and experience and mess up and cry and laugh and just
exactly
all of these things that make up life, and just experience it. And you can't do that if you don't love yourself and be yourself and put yourself on the line. Eventually put yourself out there.
Put yourself out there. Yep.
Don't be scared.
Yeah, don't be scared. I love that. I agree 100%.
Well, if you are scared, which most of us are at some point, you just do it anyway. That's what they say courage is, feeling the fear and just doing it anyway.
Just doing it anyway. Yeah. And
so I guess
see where it leads.
Big clump of advice. But what about you?
Yeah, I for me, it's take the chance. Accept failure. I think for me, the biggest thing is accept failure, and don't regret not taking a chance. Just try it, learn from it, experience it, and then keep moving forward. But don't do something because you're too afraid that it's not going to work. And when you have that predetermined notion in your head that I know I can't do this, well, then you're not going to do it. You can't possibly do it. Right. But if you go into it with saying, I'm going to see what happens. Let's see what happens. Let's try it. It's a whole different mindset, and it's likely going to work out a lot better than you thought.
Heck yeah. And then you're making it more about curiosity and fun, right? And like experimenting and keeping it open and free. And I think that's a great way to get to balance, because you're not being too much pressure, right? And just too extreme with it. And that's something I've had to learn too over the last year with all my stuff and experiences going through. It's like, let me just get curious again, like I was when I was a little kid, and just get lost. And then it's been surprising the avenues that you go down. Like I would have never gotten here if I just wasn't curious and open, like in a childlike wonder state. Which is tough to get to coming out of having to make ourselves adults so hard and put all the pressure on ourselves. But it's true. It's like, if we could just stay and just embrace the wonder like a child and just reclaim that. And
it's a great thing.
It's so helpful. I'm like, it's made my life so much better in the midst of adversity, like you said.
One day at a time.
That's what I say all the time. I've been taking it day by day for a while. So it's a real thing. I think that's all we have.
You can't, what? So many people say, oh yeah, I'm planning for a year ahead. I'm planning for tomorrow. I just, one day at a time. One day. It's not that you shouldn't plan certain things long term, but just appreciate today and tomorrow, and we'll figure out what happens on Tuesday.
Because you never know where you're going to be.
You never know.
If we stay in a good vibe and, stay open and balanced and free and positive and moving out of love and not out of fear, we don't know what opportunities are going to arise out of having that kind of vibe, I think, and just putting that intention out into the world. Like, I feel like we create better opportunities when we keep doing that than when we close ourselves up in fear. It's like, of course, you're not going to get the right opportunity living that way and feeling that way. It's just not going to happen.
Not going to happen. Nope.
Wow. That's awesome. To start everyone's week off.
Yeah, right. So it is Crystal-Tees
on YouTube.
On YouTube, and
for sure.
Where else?
I was going to say an IG, Instagram, it's Crystal Nicole Black. Yeah, I'll just give those two out for now. How about you?
Everything is Unlock the Day. So Unlock the Day on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. Thank you all for being here today. I see that, I don't know if you can see it on your side, Crystal, but I can see how many people were here today. I appreciate everyone being here. We're going to be posting this as well. So if you haven't had a chance to see it live, it will be up on our YouTube channel. So thanks for being here. Appreciate it. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And I was going to say, share. And, if you know anybody that needs any of this good advice or, conversation, just, be a loving, move out of love and share it with somebody that you love.
Yes, absolutely. Sounds good.
Oh,
thanks so much, Crystal.
Thank you. It's so good to talk to you.
Take care. We'll talk soon.
You rock. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.